Welcome to the program. Make no mistake. What is happening right now is a very, very politicized vendetta against Donald Trump. The left is using everything in its toolbook to go after the former president. They got a candidate that can't win an election, so what do? They attack with every legal means they can come up with. I mean, this indeed was a setup. Don't think for one second that the timing of this was not intentional and deliberate. You're taking stuff from 2015, 2017, and you're resurfacing it now in 2024. After Donald Trump declared that he would be running, after it was very clear that he's probably going to win this election, all things being equal. I'll tell you what. Ladies and gentlemen, the beast has been unleashed. The GOP is taking off the gloves. And things are about to get really dicey. Politically, legally. I want to be very clear. I'm not talking about violence. I am talking about the need for conservatives to stand up for themselves in the court of law. Because there's a whole lot of stuff that's happened and we've all looked the other way, right? That's what keeps happening. That's about to change massively. When you think about all the people that might be vulnerable right now, I'm looking at you, Hunter. I'm looking at you, Hillary Clinton, Loretta Lynch, Barack Obama, and yes, Joe Biden. Because now everything is up for grabs. You see, there was a system before, and they changed that. They broke the system. This is the Pandora's box. They pushed things over the edge. You know, I thought they did it back in 2016 when you had Hillary Clinton saying it was Russia, Russia, Russia. You had Jimmy Carter, the former president of the United States, saying that he didn't consider Donald Trump a legitimate president because he was only there because of the help of Russia. I mean, this is the stuff that they were making up. Not to mention the so-called dossier that they made up that we then wasted years on investigating, only to find out, guess what? It was bought and paid for by the opposition research team for Hillary Clinton. All fake, all deliberate, all political. So two can play that game. We'd rather they not. Of course, we'd rather have a civil society where we treat each other and candidates on the other side with respect. But maybe that went out the window with the Clintons long ago. Barack Obama, the ultimate politician who used demographics deliberately and politically to his advantage in ways that didn't bring us together, but drove us increasingly apart. They are so scared of Donald Trump right now winning this election that they had to do this. The timing, not a coincidence. I mean, you had 3 years, right, to do this. Why would you bring this now? In all seriousness, why would you bring these charges forward now, other than you're trying to trip them up before the convention? Think about this. The sentencing, ladies and gentlemen, is expected to happen on July 11th. Oh, you get the GOP convention happening just a couple days later. What do you know? I mean, it's stunning. Here's the good news. The GOP got the wake-up call it needed to fight fire with fire. And President Trump is very willing to take this on. Here he was moments ago. I want to go to former President Trump saying, look, this should not be happening to me or anyone else.
The whole thing is legal expense was marked down as legal expense. Think of it. This is the crime that I committed, that I'm supposed to go to jail for 187 years for. When you have violent crime all over this city at levels that nobody's ever seen before, where you have businesses leaving, and businesses are leaving because of this, because heads of businesses say, man, we don't want to get involved with that. I could go through the books of any business person in this city, and I could find things that in theory, I guess, let's indict him, let's destroy his life. But I'm out there, and I don't mind being out there because I'm doing something for this country, and I'm doing something for our Constitution. It's very important, far beyond me. And this can't be allowed to happen to other presidents. It should never be allowed to happen in the future.
He's right. It should not happen. It never should have happened. They went down this path. I told you guys before. I asked him, point blank, Mr. President, why didn't you go after Hillary Clinton? He said, you know what, Trish? She was the wife of a former president. She was a former candidate against me. It didn't feel very American. Well, guess what? He might have had some class. He might have played some rules on that front, but not them. And so now they know. Oh, they know. If he's back in office, those gloves are off. And in the meantime, the gloves are off. I'd be really worried if I were Hillary Clinton, if I were Hunter Biden, if I were Joe Biden, Loretta Lynch, Barack Obama, James Comey. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. And the reality is, how are you going to stop this? I mean, they're trying to railroad you. So the only thing you can do, perhaps in this case, is to push back, legally speaking, with all you got. We need investigators. We need hearings. We need lawyers. We need a court of law. And you know what really bugs them? The Supreme Court's not on their side, right? That's why they're trying to take Alito down. They're trying to make sure that he recuses himself. He's like, no, way. My words, not his. You know, my former colleague over at Fox, Megyn Kelly, set this up quite well on her program. And she's absolutely right on this. The GOP is being unleashed. And there's going to be retribution out there. In other words, there's going to be a price that is paid. And all the things that were overlooked in the past, I don't think they're going to get overlooked anymore. Megyn says it well. Let's listen in.
And these Democrats will rue the day they decided to use lawfare to stop a presidential candidate. I'm not talking about violence. I'm talking about tit for tat. You just wait, and it won't be Hunter Biden the next time. It's going to be Joe Biden. It could potentially still be Barack Obama. It could still potentially be Hillary Clinton. We're going to have to look at what the statutes of limitations are on the various crimes they surely committed. We're going to have to look at passing laws to revive those dead crimes, felonies or misdemeanors, so that those cases can be brought out of time. That's what may be in the interest of justice, just like they did for E. Jean Carroll with a New York State law that was passed so that she could sue him. That's what happened.
See how bad this is going to get? Really bad, guys. Really bad. This was a bad day for America. This is a bad moment in time. This is a bad moment in history. And it can't happen again. You can't politicize things in such a way that you're going to attack someone and ruin their life and ruin their finances and ruin their family because they're beating you in a political race. That can't be allowed. And if you're going to do that, if you're going to go do that down that path, then you know what? You better be prepared. You better be prepared for conservatives to strike back. I mean, think about this. Hillary Clinton, she got a break because James Comey said, oh, you know, we can't go after Hillary Clinton for that server situation because that might be election interference. Yeah, that's what Comey said way back when. Do you remember when another former Fox correspondent, Ed Henry, was getting into it with Hillary Clinton? I mean, she was very appropriately dressed, all in orange. Remember the orange pantsuit? Everybody's like, oh, gee, looks good on you, Hill. Anyway, And she was lying about her server, making a joke of it, about wiping the server clean. Let me walk you down memory lane right here. We got the clip.
Same arguments. So that's all I could say. I'm not, I have no idea. That's why we turned it over. What, like with a cloth or something? Well, no. I don't know how it works digitally at all. I do not have any. Ed, I know you want to make a point, and I can just repeat what I have said. In order to be as cooperative as possible, we have turned over the server. They can do whatever they want to with the server to figure out what's there or what's not there. That's for the people investigating it to try to figure out. But we turned over everything that was work-related, every single thing. Personal stuff, we did not. I had no obligation to do so and did not. Thank you all. Thank you all.
You see, the problem was she was keeping all the government emails on her own server, which actually is in violation of the law and kind of a big problem, kind of a national security risk. And yet, what did James Comey do at the time? He said, yep, she's guilty of this, but we're not going to move forward because, she's a presidential candidate. Maybe it doesn't really look good for the country, and that might be considered election interference. What do you know? Here we go. James Comey at the time, back in 2016, defending Hillary Clinton, making the decision, deciding that the FBI would not pursue this, that there would be nothing more coming from it because it's election interference.
Although there is evidence of potential violations of the statutes regarding the handling of classified information, our judgment is that no reasonable prosecutor would bring such a case.
Everything's just changed. Really. Everything has
the test
just
here for us
changed, ladies and gentlemen. And Hillary Clinton could now be vulnerable to prosecution because they have unleashed this Pandora's box. And there's going to be hell to pay, I suspect, for a lot of people now. It's going to keep the lawyers really, really busy. Representative Jim Jordan out just moments ago with letters demanding that Alvin Bragg and Michael Angelo appear before Congress because they want to ask about this possible political weaponization of our government. In other words, why did Alvin Bragg bring this? Alvin Bragg, mind you, was someone who originally decided not to, but then he was up for re-election. And in 2021, he decided during that process to brag, no pun intended, about how he knew Donald Trump's weaknesses, that he had been part of a team that brought 100 cases against the Trump administration for the so-called Muslim ban and the separation of families at the border. And so he knew his legal vulnerabilities better than anyone else. And he was the guy for the DA job because he could, quote, get Trump. Really? That's what qualifies you to be a DA? I mean, think about what's happened to New York City in this environment. Here's a story for you out of the Daily Mail. Progressive Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg downgraded staggering 60% of felony cases to lesser charges last year amid fury over criminals being repeatedly released to roam the streets of the Big Apple. But no. No. They still went after Trump. They still went after Trump. I mean, this is pretty astonishing. 60% of felony cases being downgraded. My gosh, Alvin Bragg. Shameful stuff. But he got Trump. Oh, maybe that'll get him reelected again. Why are you trying a case in a district where you know you can't get a fair trial? Why are you allowing a judge to say it doesn't really matter? You don't have to be unanimous on the crime. Just go for anything. A, B, or C, multiple choice test. Is he guilty of something? Anything? Okay. Then we'll make it a felony. Because then what? We get to put him in jail? Just as the GOP announces its convention. By the way, the Democrats aren't even having like a real one. They're going to do a virtual one. What's that about? A virtual convention. What are they pulling? You got to ask this of yourself. Ask, what is up? They're high-fiving each other over at campaign headquarters for Joe Biden. You got people writing guilty, 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 guilty 34 times in the street. You get all kinds of tweets. Oh, the Star Wars guy. Remember Luke Skywalker? He's out with a tweet. Guilty, 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 guilty. They're all excited about saying all of these things, right? Guilty, 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 guilty. Because they now figure they get a shot at winning. I got some news for them. Not going to happen. All the polls show something else. More on that in just a moment. But back to Jim Jordan demanding that people come forward. I want to, maybe you're not familiar with Michael Colangelo. Let me remind you, Julie Kelly had a tweet. She's been a great investigative reporter looking into a lot of J6 stuff, etc. Let's take a look at her tweet because she's reminding you just exactly who this guy is. Michael Colangelo standing right behind Alvin Bragg. He was number 3 at the DOJ for the Biden administration and suddenly transferred over to New York to help Alvin out. Alvin and the chipmunks there, right? What's that about? So there he is standing right behind Alvin Bragg like a little loyalist, doing his part to save democracy while killing it. You understand? This is like, it cracks me up because they're all about, okay, we're going to save, Trump is going to weaponize things. And I'm like, what do you think you're doing? People, what are you doing? That is exactly what you've been doing in real time here. And it's scary to look at. And you know what? Right now, all they want you to think about is guilty, 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 guilty. That's it, ladies and gentlemen. They don't want you to think about anything else. They just want you to know that Joe Biden is running against a convicted felon. And forget about whether this was a sham trial or not. And it was a sham trial. It was a setup. It was a scam, the whole bit. In my estimation, pretty bad stuff. Well, over on MSNBC, guess what? They don't even want you to think about that. No. Forget about the appeal that's going to happen. This is not an injustice as far as the law is concerned. No, this is exactly what should have happened. And so just forget about any concerns about appeals, etc. This is Rachel Maddow telling you should believe it all.
The test here for us as a country is not about what happens on appeal and is not about what happens in sentencing. The test for us now as a country is whether or not this former president and his allies will have succeeded in trying to undermine the rule of law so that people reject this as a legitimate function of the rule of law in our country.
Okay. If you actually care about the rule of law, you would actually care about the appeals court because, yes, he's going to appeal. And I have every expectation this will be thrown out. All right, I want to go to a statement coming from Senator Mike Lee right now. Just coming in, he's writing that strongly worded statements are not enough. Those who turned our judicial system into a political cudgel must be held accountable. We are no longer cooperating with any Democrat legislative priorities or nominations, and we invite all concerned senators to join our stand. Wow. This is effectively a kind of civil war that has just broken out. Again, the statement from Mike Lee, Senator Mike Lee, it just broke moments ago. Important to note because they are done with it. Here you go. U.S. senators saying this right now, and you see a number of signatures. Wow. Again, we've talked about the potential for a quote unquote civil war, not in the traditional sense of, weapons, et cetera, but in a true division. And this is what we're seeing. You have Tommy Tuberville, you've got Senator Marsha Blackburn, Senator Roger Marshall, Senator Mark Rubio, Senator Rick Scott, Senator Eric Schmidt, Senator J.D. Vance, and I suspect there will be more to come. J.D. Vance on CNN just earlier today making the point of the injustice that we're seeing and how they've weaponized the legal warfare. I mean, this is, if you would, lawfare. And senators are right to stand up to it. That list is going to grow, ladies and gentlemen. They're saying, we're done. We're not cooperating with you anymore. We are out. There is nothing that we will sign off for your agenda. So thank you very much, Joe Biden. You just effectively shut down the government. Winning again, buddy. Winning again. Our economy, our border, our international mess. You have created a disaster. This is on your hands and your hands only. You have allowed this weaponization. You know, Bill O'Reilly was on News Nation last night and he said something really smart and really important. If Joe Biden were the president that he should be, if he were presidential in any way, he'd pardon this. And by the way, he might actually get a political point or two for doing so, but he's not going to. Now, he's not going to because he is a political animal that is driving all this. And don't kid yourself for 2 seconds if you think that he's not. What do you think the campaign was doing, dragging Robert De Niro and the head of their communications department outside the courthouse the day that they thought that they were going to get the verdict? I want to go to J.D. Vance on CNN pointing this out. Let's take a look.
This judge committed multiple elements of reversible error, and he did it while his daughter has made a ton of money off of Democratic candidates and while he himself donated to the Biden campaign.
So let me repeat the question.
You cannot say that this trial was anything more than politics masquerading as justice. And yes, I will help Donald Trump. I will help Donald Trump however I think that I can, Wolf, because if we allow this to happen, it's so much bigger and so much more troubling than Donald Trump. If we allow this standard that you can throw your political opponents in jail because they're doing better than you in an election, it will be the end of this country as we know it.
And he's absolutely right. And this is why you now have numerous senators coming forward saying, we've had enough. You know, we're not going to play this game. You guys are bad actors, and we don't work with bad actors. This is the so-called Civil War-esque type stuff that's going down, ladies and gentlemen, in real time. They made a huge mistake, and they're going to pay for it. And I suspect they're going to pay for it at the ballot boxes as well, because, you know, Americans are not going to forget this, and they see through the charade. Can we go to the screenshot, if you would? This is all the television screens yesterday focused on Donald Trump. As this news came out, it was actually tweeted out by one of the Trump campaign staffers who pointed this out, that he's dominating the news cycle. And when you dominate the news cycle, take a look at that. Every single network you can imagine, all on Donald Trump. Guess what? People are going to start to ask questions. Now, you can spoon feed them whatever you want, and that's what they're doing, right? Look at the newspaper headlines. Guilty, 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 guilty. That's what you got. Well, at what point do people say, okay, I'm going to look beyond those headlines. I'm actually going to find my own sources of news. I'm going to go watch the Trish Regan show or any of the other podcasts out there that are trying to dig deeper than just these simple headlines. Yes, he's guilty. Guilty on all 34 accounts. But what does that mean? Counts. What does that mean? We don't really know because they still haven't defined the crime. So you got to go beyond the headlines at this moment in time. And that's what I suspect Americans are doing and will continue doing. And in fact, this is why, yet again, Joe Biden and his group of Democrats, they've misfired. They've miscalculated. Take a look at the flash poll just out this morning. Daily Mail has this for us. What do you know? He's up 6 points. Donald Trump up 6 points after being held guilty by a jury of 12 angry New Yorkers on 34 counts. Pretty amazing. A 6-point bump in approval. I mean, people have had it. Can you guys not get this message? They have had it with you. They have had it with the pettiness. They're disgusted by how you've weaponized the system, Joe Biden and company. I'll tell you, I think this is why Joe Manchin is leaving the party, the Democrat Party. Senator Manchin just announcing moments ago that he's out. He's an independent now. He wants nothing to do with this party. And he's so right. Read his tweet here. My commitment to do everything I can to bring our country together has led me to register as an independent with no party affiliation. He's done. He's done with the Democrat Party, as many people in this moment in time really are or will be. He's not alone. The senator from West Virginia is not alone. I can't tell you how many people have messaged me saying, you know what, I've never donated to a campaign before, but I'm donating now. You know that the website for Donald Trump donations actually went down in real time as all this information was coming in. As the verdict came out, it went down. And they raised $35 million in less than 24 hours. And these are small donations. These are little mom and pop saying, let me give a little bit. Because now people feel compelled. They have something that they want to protect. And they got a guy out there who's willing to stand up. Let's go back to the Trump clip again. He's willing to stand up and do this. In fact, Drew, if you have this one, he said, I am honored. Think about that. I am honored to be the one. I mean, I don't really like having to be the one, but if it's me, so be it. I'll take it on with everything I got. Here's Donald Trump moments ago.
The whole thing is legal expense was marked down as legal expense. Think of it. This is the crime that I committed, that I'm supposed to go to jail for 187 years for. When you have violent crime all over this city at levels that nobody's ever seen before, where you have businesses leaving, and businesses are leaving because of this, because heads of businesses say, man, we don't want to get involved with that. I could go through the books of any business person in this city, and I could find things that in theory, I guess, let's indict him, let's destroy his life. But I'm out there, and I don't mind being out there because I'm doing something for this country, and I'm doing something for our Constitution. It's very important, far beyond me. And this can't be allowed to happen to other presidents. It should never be.
It should not be happening to anyone. You know, this sickens me. It really does. The whole weaponization of our legal system is fundamentally just wrong.
The whole thing is
wrong. And someone has to take it on. Somebody has to speak up. Somebody has to fight back. I mean, they just don't know what to do with themselves because they really got themselves a fighter, shall we say. A fighter that's willing to go back and go back and go back again. And somehow, miraculously, like, this is a guy who just never gets down. It's amazing. Like, I said to him, like, how do you deal with it? I mean, I don't know if his family can deal with it as easily. I'm sure his wife doesn't appreciate this. But he's like, I'm in it. I'm in it to win it. And they're not going to do this to me, and they're not going to do this to anyone else. Here he is again, speaking just moments ago there in New York. I think we got it. All right. Anyway, he told everyone that he was absolutely honored to take this on. Again, noting that he doesn't really love being in this position. He shouldn't have to be in this position, but he's willing to do it, and he's honored to do it. So, wow. I mean, look, this is why he's raising money fast and furious right now. 35 million just in the last 24 hours. I'm telling you, independents are furious right now. It's what you're seeing with Joe Manchin. It's what you're seeing with this guy over here on Twitter. I want you to take a look at this tweet. I'm not familiar with this person or this account, but a guy named Ron Rule, he doesn't have many followers or anything, but I thought this kind of symbolized a lot of what's going on. He wrote, I'm voting for Trump. I don't even like him. I'm just tired of the left. Tired of DEI and all these, tax hikes and climate things, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm just sick of it, right? So he said, I'm not voting for the man. I'm voting for the really angry, I'm paraphrasing, bull in a china shop who wants to burn DC to the ground. In other words, people are tired of the system. They want a different system. They want an alternative. Remember when we heard that, the musician, right? The great musician, Oliver Anthony, is it? Okay. The wonderful musician who was playing those terrific songs. And he said too, he was like, you know what? I'm not political. I need change. I think that the average American is losing out, and the average American is losing out. I mean, when the system is stacked in such a way that people can't get ahead economically speaking because there's so much inflation, that they can't get the right opportunities for their kids because apparently suddenly DEI is the cause du jour. And that in and of itself, by the way, is extremely discriminatory, right? Like, we used to be a meritocracy. And I get it. Like, I'm not saying America's a perfect place or that we are free of the discrimination practices from coast to coast. Look, I mean, it happens, right? But fundamentally, I do believe that America's a great place that actually does afford a lot of opportunities still. But that's changing. It's changing with this crowd that comes in, like Alvin Bragg, who downgrades felonies, 60% of them, saying we can't go after criminals. Or the mayor of New York, the mayor of Boston, who just came out and said, well, we're not going to go after this, that, and the other. We're not going to go after shoplifting because, it's just shoplifting. So what does that mean? If you're a small business owner, you're then vulnerable. Like, you guys, you need law and order. You can't just throw everything out the window. And Americans, everyday Americans, independents, and many on the left as well, are looking at what's unfolding in real time and saying, I've had enough. I've had enough. And this is going to be felt at the ballot box. It's just a question of what happens next for Donald Trump, for the GOP, and for all the Democrats that decided to unleash this in the first place. Pandora's box on steroids. Even Mitch McConnell was tweeting out his support last night of Donald Trump and saying, this is outrageous, absolutely outrageous, what we have done to our system. It's as though we don't respect it in any way, shape, or form. And that, in and of itself, is pretty darn shameful. I'll tell you, it's wrong. But here's a question. As they get ready to sentence him, and we don't know, what will it be? Does he go a week in jail? We'll keep him in jail during the GOP convention in hopes that maybe then he can't run? What's that about? Why would you... I'm sorry, election interference, anyone? Election interference, if you ask me, on steroids, ladies and gentlemen. That's what this is. So where is Nikki Haley? She came out the other day and said she was supporting Trump, even though she didn't really like him. She said everything she hated about him, and then she said, but I'm going to support him because, the alternative is Joe Biden. Well, I'm going to check her Twitter account again. Drew and I have been looking at it, and at last check, nothing. Look at that. Nothing. Crickets from Nikki Haley. Even Mitch McConnell is out there. You have Democrats saying they're no longer going to work with Republicans saying they're no longer going to work with Democrats because they're so disgusted with all of this. And again, I'm looking here. Wow. Nothing. Ron DeSantis has come out. Everyone's come out and called this nonsense out except for Nikki Haley. Does Nikki Haley think she's got a shot at the job? Does she think they're sending Donald Trump to prison and she's going to swoop in and pick up the nomination at the convention mid-July? Is that the method to the madness here? I'll tell you, she's not very smart. I've said this before. She's not very smart. No. She's not the brightest. Multiple instances of it. But this tells me she's also politically not very astute. Because if nothing else, you might, Nikki, want to at least have some kind of, even if it's going to be milquetoast like your endorsement was, some kind of something to indicate a little bit, a teeny bit of support for the former president of the United States, whom 75 million people voted for. Because if you want those people to vote for you, lady, then you might want to ingratiate yourself just a little bit more. I'm just saying, if that's your methodology and you're trying to work your way to the nomination because you figure Alvin Bragg and Judge Merchan are going to lock them up, then you don't have a very good game plan. And by the way, Donald Trump can run from jail. It's full-on Banana Republic stuff, but it can happen. There's nothing constitutionally that would not allow it. And knowing him, he will. Remember how he made lemonade out of lemons with Fani Willis and the whole Fulton County in jail mugshot? That was another record-breaking day for fundraising. And people are like, wow, you guys are just too much. So Pandora's box has been unleashed. And so the big question now is, who are the Republicans going to go after? First up, Hunter Biden. His trial starts on Monday. And he's in a little bit of trouble for a lot of reasons. You see, Hunter Biden possessed a weapon illegally. It's interesting, in light of all the concern about the Second Amendment, that the president's son actually had a weapon illegally, and he bought it while he was under the influence of substances he should not be under the influence of. And apparently, the girlfriend at the time, which happened to be, now it gets weird, okay? Like, bear with me. Happened to be the widow of his brother. That's who he took up with. Stellar guy that he is. Takes up with her, and she hid the weapon. This is what is alleged. And, well, ultimately, he's found himself in a whole lot of trouble for it, along with other things. I mean, there are things that are problematic, like the tax evasion of some, what was it, 1.4, might have been $1.7 million. I mean, just didn't pay any taxes on this because, hey, why do I have to pay taxes? You know, I'm one of these people. I'm not one of you. I don't have to register as a foreign lobbyist, even though my dad is in charge of Ukraine policy, and I'm working for a company called Burisma that's paying me $83,000 a month. Unheard of for a board job. Unheard of, especially for a guy who had gotten kicked out of the military for some reasons we won't get into, but you know what I'm talking about. It's just, we don't want to alarm anyone with our talk of some of these substances. That's the problem with AI, right? Anyway, so he gets kicked out of the military. Burisma hires him. His dad's in charge of Ukraine policy. And he never bothers to register as a foreign lobbyist, despite the fact he's got money coming in from here, there, and everywhere. You name the country, somehow he's got some affiliation with it. And what's amazing is, for a bunch of Democrats that are so adamant about how we need to get off of the whole traditional energy front, he's out there working the traditional energy front. Nat gas companies out of China. Nat gas companies out of Ukraine. I mean, if you really wanted to be a conspiracy theorist, you'd say, this is kind of funny. He's shutting down the American industry while trying to lobby on behalf of all these foreign industries that want to drill for energy, thereby making us more dependent. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. So now he's in the hot seat. And this gun charge is actually kind of serious. So one of the amazing things that has been completely overlooked by the media and no one's talking about is that Joe Biden happened to make a little stop by the widow of his son's house. This is the same woman, Haley Biden, who took up with Hunter and apparently hid the weapon. All right. This is wild stuff. Well, anyway, the president dropped by to see her a few days ago, and nobody really reported on this. One Fox reporter asked about it in a news conference. And apparently there's nothing to see here. It was just, it was just a family visit. That's all. I don't think he does this very often, but for whatever reason, days before she is expected to appear in court, Joe Biden, the president of the United States, drops by to say hi. KJP, rock star, PR person, communications expert that she is, well, she was in a little over her head, shall we say, when the Fox reporter asked about this. Let's go to it.
On another topic, why did President Biden have a private meeting with a witness who plans to testify in court against his son?
Can you say more?
Haley Biden is a key government witness who allegedly disposed of a gun that Hunter is accused of buying illegally. President Biden was at her house this week.
I think the American people should also be told the full breadth of this, not just a part of this question here. As you all know, the president actually spoke to this yesterday during his memorial, I think impactful, powerful Memorial Day address, where he talked about the passing, the anniversary, the 9th anniversary of the passing of his son. And he visited her as that anniversary is approaching. He visited her days before the anniversary of the passing of his son. And she is family. She was married, obviously, to his late son. And I think that is something also to mention as you're asking your question to me.
So they did not talk about her testimony?
This was not about that. This was about literally the 9th anniversary of the passing of his son. That is upcoming in days, Peter.
Really? Really? They expect us to believe that? They do, by the way. They expect you to believe everything. Don't doubt them, not for 1 second. No, not allowed to. So She wants us to think it was just a family event and he was just stopping by to say hi. He couldn't make a phone call. No, he had to physically go there. Kind of reminds me, ladies and gentlemen, of the time that Loretta Lynch and Bill Clinton met on the tarmac. Do you remember that? Yeah, that was kind of interesting. During the Obama White House days, head of the DOJ, Loretta Lynch, had a little private meeting with Bill Clinton on the tarmac. You can see in the picture there, that was them. You know, the circle of them meeting together. Boy, was the FBI angry. They were like, who the heck leaked this one? How did that make it into the press? They were really, really angry. Well, Bill and Loretta, they met. And we were told at the time, oh, it was just about the grandkids. They just wanted to say hi and chit-chat about the grandkids. Are you kidding me? It was during the time that Hillary Clinton was under fire for having kept all of her emails from the government on a private server. I mean, totally not something that you should do ever because, well, you know, there's some national security concerns that you should be worried about. And so she was in a whole lot of deep you-know-what because of it. I mean, hey, James Comey saved the day saying, we don't want to go forward with this prosecution. No, because you see, it could be misconstrued as election interference. Imagine that. They used to care about election interference. It's almost quaint, right? You know, a lot of questions about that. A lot of questions about that, ladies and gentlemen. And when we consider that Haley Biden and Joe Biden are meeting up in this little meeting just to talk about the family, I would say, you know, there was a time and place when we were also told it was just about the family. They're on the tarmac with Loretta and Bill. I don't think it was just about the family. And this is what essentially could get exposed right now. I mean, this is the vulnerability for the left. Because if you want to go down this path, and clearly they want to go down it, the right can go down that path too. It's unfortunate. It's not ideal. But this is what we are looking at. This is the reality of the world today. I want to give a quick shout out for our friends, one of our sponsors that make this show possible over at American Heart for Gold. Wonderful, wonderful company. You know, with everything going on in the world and you're looking at all this craziness, you may be wondering if your savings are secure. And look, it's a legitimate concern these days. I'll tell you. It's nuts. It's nuts. Well, these guys are great. It's a wonderful company. Max Baker, who's the president of the company, was actually just on the program last Friday. 1 week ago today, I was actually over in Ireland. Amazing, right? Time flies, and the news cycle is fast. Anyway, Max really was so informed, and it's such an interesting interview that I encourage you to go back and listen to it because he talks about how central banks all over the world are buying gold right now, in part because they're nervous about the U.S., our political situation, obviously, then, of course, our spending situation, obviously, and our inflation situation that comes about as a result of all that. What's great about this company, American Heart for Gold, is you can get up to $15,000 in free silver if you just use my name. A little name dropping here. Text Trish to 65532 or go to this URL. You're never going to forget it. TrishLovesGold.com. That was clever, right? TrishLovesGold.com or call 1-844-495-1115, 844-495-1115. But again, I love this, up to $15,000 in free silver. Look, I'm not your financial advisor, but I think we're in a really unsteady place right now. One of the things that I keep personally in my portfolio, it's actually something that I consider a core holding that I have for hopefully forever, right? Because I think gold is one of those things that really just helps to stabilize you through difficult times. So take a look at American Heart for Gold right now. TrishLovesGold.com. Look, crazy times, crazy times, crazy times. And as we look at what's about to happen with Hunter Biden, I would say, you know what? Hunter's not the only one. Fani Willis is back in the hot seat. Fani Willis is now under investigation by Georgia Republicans in the Senate there. Because you see, there's a whole slew of things, including primarily the fact that she decided to hire a guy that she seemed to have something with, right? Like, I don't know how you have 30,000 messages back and forth and multiple trips to the apartment or her condo, whatever it was, without having a little something. I mean, I'm like, you know, right? Okay. So something was going on and she hired him and he made some $600,000+ and he was taking trips to the White House, also taking her on trips, by the way. So the question is going to become, what are they able to discern was actually possibly going back to her? Was there any kind of kickback? That's what the financial forensic investigators are going to be looking for. Trump's team, his legal team, has just gotten the ability to move forward with their case down in Fulton County, Georgia. And so they're going to do so. In the meantime, you've got the Georgia Senate Republicans. They're saying, we need to bring this lady in for some questioning. She doesn't want to have any part of it. I mean, look, here, we got a headline I think we can show you from the Daily Mail. Newsweek. Fani Willis suffers legal setback. Willis, who is prosecuting Donald Trump in his Georgia indictment, has seen proceedings in the case further delayed. In other words, her ability to go after Donald Trump has been delayed while the ability for him to go after her has actually increased. Meanwhile, Jim Jordan, investigator that he is starting to put the dots together. And he's saying, well, wait a second. Was there any kind of collusion between Fani Willis, Alvin Bragg, Letitia James, and Jack Smith and the White House? Don't forget Michael Colangelo that we just showed you, right? Julie Kelly's tweet. He was standing right behind Alvin Bragg in that press conference yesterday. This is number 3 guy at the DOJ. Was there any kind of collusion? I mean, he had a lot of friends at the DOJ, right? And he went to go work with Alvin Bragg. Meanwhile, Fani Willis and Nathan Wade were running up to the White House to have, we don't know what, with Kamala Harris. They say, oh, it's just a party, there's nothing more. Well, Nathan Wade actually expensed Fulton County for a whole lot of trips up to the White House. So again, we asked the question, what really was going on? Well, Jim Jordan is asking this question as well. So will she testify? I don't know. Will she actually appear before Congress? She's been asked to. Will she? She said she's not going to do it in Georgia. Oh, this is a good little tidbit. I got to tell you about this one. One other story coming to us about Fani Willis right now. So Nathan Wade, the boyfriend, he put his house up for sale down in Georgia. Sad, right? Like his marriage is breaking up. But you know what's amazing? He showed up at her victory party the other night. Yeah, we thought they were over, right? There's a little gossip for you. He showed up at the victory party in Fulton County, Georgia, at her party because she just won her primary there as DA, causing a few tongues to wag. Anyway, Fani wants no part of testifying at all. No way, Jose. It's not going to happen. Here she is telling us as much.
Will you appear before a Georgia Senate committee without a subpoena?
Well, first of all, I don't even think they have the authority to subpoena me, but they need to learn the law.
So will you appear, yes or no?
I will not appear to anything that is unlawful. And I have not broken the law in any way. I said it, I'll say it amongst these leaders. I'm sorry folks get pissed off that everybody gets treated evenly.
All right. I think she answered that very well.
She says she's not going to appear. She's accusing them of being unlawful. Therefore, she's not going to appear. I think Mayorkas said he wasn't going to appear either, right? What's going on? Democrats don't think they have to appear at anything. I mean, I do think when you're called to testify, you're expected to be there. After all, Peter Navarro is in jail right now. Steve Bannon is on his way to jail. Juan Merchan, I guess, will make sure of that. The judge. Somehow this guy, amazing, right? Like I keep saying he ought to play the lottery because he keeps drawing the straw to deal with the Trump cases in New York. There's 24 justices there. What happens? Oh, Merchan gets all 3 of these cases. Amazing. Anyway, Steve Bannon is likely on his way to jail because he's not appearing to testify. He's in trouble for that. Peter Navarro's in trouble for that. But guess what? Fani, I guess she's going to be just fine, right? She doesn't have to testify. And Mayorkas, you understand how one-sided all of this is, and it's fundamentally wrong. It's fundamentally wrong. I'll tell you, Fani Willis is likely in for a difficult time. And then let me point out this, that the big guy himself is not immune from any of this. Before I get to that, quick shout out. Thank you for your lovely compliments. I do actually appreciate it. I take my health very seriously. I take my appearance very seriously, all that stuff. But it all comes down to how you feel, right? And how good you feel and how you take care of yourself. Well, I want to thank our friends over at Balance in Nature. for giving me my fruits and veggies every single day. Balanceofnature.com. You can go to their website. You can actually get 35% off with my name, Trish. Trish, use discount code Trish for 35% off. You can call them at 1-800-246-8751, 1-800-246-8751, discount code Trish. Again, 35% off plus another $10 off plus free shipping. I don't think you can beat it anywhere. And best part of all, you're going to get your fruits and veggies every single day. So it's important to take your vitamins, important to take care of yourself. Important, especially with all the craziness around us. It's easy to get distracted. Go to balanceofnature.com today and use my code word. All right. Hunter Biden, he's up next. But I don't think it's going to be just Hunter. I think things are going to come right around to the big guy himself. This is very sensitive territory. But let me lay it out for you. If nothing else, it doesn't look good. You see, when he was vice president of the United States of America, he was in charge of Ukraine policy, which meant he was in charge of all the money that we were spending in Ukraine. And by the way, we started spending big right around 2014. The New York Times had a big article, some 30 some odd pages in PDF form just the other day on this, about how the CIA went into Ukraine in 2014. So we were willing to spend. We were willing to spend a lot of money there in Ukraine. And somehow Joe was in charge of it. So he's vice president of the United States of America. Barack Obama had specifically asked that no family members be involved in any kind of lobbying efforts overseas with any of these countries. And yet, Hunter did it anyway. Hunter decided to go and accept a job at $83,000 a month working for Burisma, a natural gas company that's now defunct, was notoriously corrupt, and was being investigated by someone who was effectively fired by Joe, or Joe made sure got fired, and then admitted it. So I want to take you back down memory lane to that time at the CFR, Council on Foreign Relations, where he sat down with Richard Haas and he bragged about how he fired this investigator guy in Ukraine. Now, he totally did not admit at the time that this guy was investigating his son's company, the company that was paying his son a lot of money, and his son's business partner for that matter. It was $83,000 times 2. Here we go.
But it just happened to be that was the assignment I got. I got all the good ones, so I got Ukraine, and I remember going over convincing our team, or others too, convincing us that we should be providing for loan guarantees. And I went over for, I guess, the 12th, 13th time to Kyiv, and I was supposed to announce that there was another $1 billion loan guarantee. And I had gotten a commitment from Poroshenko and from Yatsenyuk that they would take action against the state prosecutor, and they didn't. So they said they were walking out to press conference. I said, no, I'm not going to, we're not going to give you the $1 billion. They said, you have no authority. You're not the president. The president said. I said, call him. I said, I'm telling you, you're not getting the $1 billion. I said, you're not getting the $1 billion. I'm going to be leaving here. And I think it was, 6 hours? I said, I'm leaving in 6 hours. If the prosecutor's not fired, you're not getting the money. Well, got fired.
You bet he did. He got fired. Okay, so this is going to come back to haunt him. Already, James Comer's been asking a lot of questions. He's looked at all of the concerns from various banks, including 6 major U.S. banks that were looking at the financial records of Hunter Biden. And they were saying, wait a second, where's all this foreign money coming from? And it was going to a variety of different LLCs, et cetera, and a variety of different family members. I've looked at the records myself, and it's a little bit peculiar. You know, anytime you have money coming in from foreign sources, the bank does pay special attention to that money, because what are they trying to guard against? They're trying to guard against what might have even actually happened, right? The effort by one country to gain favor with the U.S. and lobby for itself in the U.S. And if you're not declaring yourself a foreign lobbyist, then what are you, some kind of spy? I mean, he should have declared himself a foreign lobbyist, given that he was receiving money from Ukraine at the time, but he never bothered to do so. And then his father's caught doing this. So I just think, ladies and gentlemen, as we talk about tit for tat, about everything heating up in a serious, massive way, this is all going to come out. And it's not going to be pretty. It's not going to be pretty for Joe Biden. It's not going to be pretty for Hunter Biden. It's certainly not going to be pretty for the United States of America in any way, shape, or form. No. But you know what? They brought it on. And they have no one to thank but themselves for this mess that we have gotten ourselves. Not we, by the way. It's them. It's them. They hate Donald Trump so much that they're going to use anything and everything against him to try and stop him. But mind you, it wouldn't just be Trump. I mean, I think about what they were doing with Ron DeSantis. I think about what they were doing with Nikki Haley and how they were slamming them repeatedly on The View and calling them all kinds of names and horrible people, et cetera, et cetera. In other words, it doesn't matter. You're on the other team. Therefore, they will run you over. We can't live in a country like that. So it's high time the GOP stand up and, man up and all those things. It's high time that it happen. And I'll tell you what, Americans are standing up in a really, really big way. I want to go to some charts to show you what the path is to 270, the path to a Donald Trump win. But first, you know what? I'll tell you, we're not going to get there to 270 without the help of some really important people. I'm so proud to have partnered with these folks over at AFP, AmericansForProsperity.org, because AFP actually understands the financial intricacies of policy, meaning healthcare, inflation, the energy industry. They get it. They understand, and they're looking for candidates all over our country that we can support and help get us to a place where we have Congress. In other words, you need the House, you need the Senate, and you need the Oval Office. You need it all. You need it all right now. I mean, you got 6 senators that are like, we're out. We're not going to work with Democrats anymore. You need to have this election be a landslide. AFP is working to make sure that we get the right people in place to help make it happen. AmericansForProsperity.org. But this I'll leave you with. This is a map that's darn exciting to see. Look at these battleground states where he's starting to win more and more. Pennsylvania, Arizona, Georgia, Wisconsin, Michigan. These are the 5 out of 6 battleground states now looking like they're neck and neck. This is the current electoral map, ladies and gentlemen, 215 to 219. Well, guess what? We just got a poll in on Virginia. Virginia is now in play. Virginia hasn't voted red in 20 years for a presidential candidate. Virginia, which has 13 electoral votes, guess what? 42 to 42. I'm telling you, this is all in play. And so if you assume, and you don't even have to count Virginia in this, take a look at that map, get a good sense of it. If you assume that some of those gray states that are the toss-up places, Georgia, for example, some of these others, if they go as expected, there's a new map. Check that out. 312 to 226. You understand why the stakes are so high. And this doesn't even include Virginia, nor New York, which is actually amazingly in play. 312 to 226. And that is why the Biden administration is so freaked out at this moment in time. This is why they're high-fiving each other. This is why George Soros' son, Alex, just came out with a tweet saying Democrats should refer to Trump as a convicted felon at every opportunity. Repetition is the key to a successful message, and we want people to wrestle with the notion of hiring a convicted felon for the most important job in the country. Well, thank you, Alex, for telling us your strategy. But we already knew it. We knew that strategy. I've already dictated that whole thing and lined it out for you. This is exactly what they're trying to do. It's a convicted felon versus Joe Biden. Good versus evil. Here we go again. Don't let the repeat of 2020 happen again. This should be about policy. This should be about the future of America. And I have every feeling it will be. So take a look at that map. Commit it to your memory. I think it's going to happen. I'll see you right back here tomorrow.